Oh, hey, how are you?
I love how he always acts like he's so surprised that we're live when we literally were going live. But anyway, how you doing this week? Other than
We're live.
not enough hours in the day.
Listen. I struggling to keep up with everything I got going on.
I understand. I'm on spring break, so I'm enjoying
Yeah,
the
must be nice. I see you
yeah.
the blonde dyed your hair, got this good hair color in.
Eh. I had to go
Hmm.
take care of some things. I had to go take care of some things.
Hmm.
I cut it too.
I see. Cause
Yeah.
you had that thing in a ponytail the other day.
Ain't no ponytail now, baby. Ain't no ponytail now. So, you guys, we are here, baby, staying consistent. You hear me? Consistent over here.
They
Um,
don't see us.
right. We have a couple of updates to our stories that we've been bringing you guys over the last couple of months. And then we have some new things to share with you guys. So buckle up. We have a full, as L Teddy would say, we have a full docket, honey. Um, the first one we're going to talk about is an update to a story we've been talking about as it relates to the Department of Education over the last couple of weeks. It's literally just hit my uh desk right before we went live. So this is breaking news, and this is so it's not we're going to give you what we have and then we'll discuss it. The NAACP sues the U.S. Education Department over DEI school funding cuts. The civil rights group said the Trump administration was targeting programs that offer truthful, inclusive curricula and addresses racism among other efforts. The NAACP sued the U.S. Department of Education on Tuesday to stop its alleged illegal effort to cut off funding to schools that use diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and prevent Black students from receiving equal education opportunities. In a complaint filed in Washington, D.C., the largest U.S. civil rights group faulted the Trump administration for targeting programs that offer truthful, inclusive curricula, policies to give Black Americans equal access to selective education opportunities, and efforts to foster a sense of belonging and address racism. It also said the policies advance a misrepresentation, a misinterpretation of federal civil rights laws and Supreme Court precedent that undermine NAACP members' equal protection rights and protection from viewpoint discrimination under the U.S. Constitution. U.S. President Donald Trump has made ending racial preference and so-called DEI programs a top priority in his second White House term. The Education Department had on February the 14th sent a Dear Colleague letter. We've talked about that letter numerous times to schools receiving federal funding. Um, the letter said federal law prevented the schools from considering race as a factor in areas such as admissions, hiring, promotion, pay, financial aid, scholarships, prizes, housing, and graduation ceremonies. Then on April the 3rd, the department demanded certifications of compliance from schools, including to end DEI programs. And um, yeah, it goes on, from there, but you guys pretty much get the gist of it. This is something we told you guys when we first talked about um, the edict that was handed down to basically gut the Department of Education. We read an article, I believe, 2 episodes ago that detailed which departments had already been targeted, what had already closed, and we told you guys that the Office of Civil Rights was the first department that they gutted. Um, which of course would leave the agency unable to be effective in one of its major edicts, which is to make sure that children get a equal, fair and equal education. So, Doc, what you got for this?
Um, I have a wait and see attitude about it
Mhm.
because how do I say this? I've been very disappointed in recent years with the NAACP and their fight and their direction. Remember the feckless travel bans that they were having on Florida and different things. And the reason that I said that is they targeted Florida, but there were 15 other states that were just as bad, some even worse. than Florida. And I just wonder. I really I'm gonna wait and see because I really want to see what the plan is, what the strategy is, and who's developing these strategies that they're having, who's coming up with the plans, who and because to me the NAACP as of late has not been effective as they were a century ago. They just have not been up for the fight. And we have a new fight nowadays on a new front, and we have existential threats to our freedoms and our liberties. And I just
Mhm.
don't know whether or not they are best equipped themselves without
Mhm.
having a larger coalition um, to join the fight with them.
I understand. I got you on that one, and I definitely, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a wait and see attitude about pretty much everything that's going on right now, because, like you said, the rule. It's just these are just not, baby. This is a new rule. This, I know the game, but these rules I don't know. So I definitely agree with you about not being very happy with how the NAACP has moved in recent years, and I definitely feel the same way. Like, all of this stuff sounds great. Yes, it sounds great. It's really good. Um but we are definitely just in uncharted territory as it relates to anything um right now. So I'm with you on that one. I'm definitely with you on that one. Do we want to go to do you want to read now? When we were talking backstage, there we have two articles on the success sequence. Did you want to read both of them, or you just wanted to read the last one, which was sort of letting us know it passed, and go through that?
Um, I think we I think the first one gives more of an idea of what it is because many
Okay,
people won't know what it is, and then we can just add the update that's in the second one to it.
got you. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were doing the right one. All
Mhm.
right. Okay, you guys. So we're getting ready to switch over to. We're gonna then listen. I'm gonna brag for a minute. I'm gonna brag on my researcher for a minute. That is the doc over here. You guys, we usually bring you what is trending before it starts trending, right? So we're getting ready to talk about something called a success sequence that we're starting to see moving through. We're going to give you an update, and you guys, this is very interesting. But remember, this is one of those things we're telling you is a coming trend in education. Am I speaking on that correctly, Doc?
Mhm.
All right. So this is coming from NBC4 News. This is coming. The date is April the 3rd. Well, it was updated April the 4th. Ohio bill would, not could, would mandate success sequence education, including marriage before kids. The Ohio State Senate held its first hearing Tuesday for a bill that will require schools to teach a success sequence life path, including encouraging students to get married before having children. Sponsored by Senator Al Coltrana, I hope I said his name right. Senate Bill 156 will require students in grades 6 through 12 to study the success sequence, which includes obtaining a high school degree, finding a full-time job, and marrying before having children. Excuse me, I said Corona. Corona said 97% of individuals who do all three are not impoverished, although federal analysis warns that factors will still be at play. You think? The success sequence is a proven formula to help young adults avoid poverty and achieve the American dream, he said. Senate Bill 156 will require the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce to develop model curriculum regarding the three-pronged success approach, which would have to be bolstered by evidence and feedback from a committee of parents and local board of education members. It is based on research from varying institutions, although the success sequence concept was popularized by the Brookings Institution, a nonpartisan think tank. According to the Ohio's Poverty Report, Ohioans who are married with children have far lower poverty rates than single parent households, and low poverty rates are associated with higher levels of education. However, this data does not consider other relevant factors like increased flexibility when two parents could be working. Understandably, full-time job offers regular income and naturally correlate with lower poverty rates. According to according to a federal success sequence analysis, high living costs and low wages can make a practice less applicable to young people. Affordable childcare and lack of familial support were also listed as barriers for people who followed the success sequence but still struggled economically. Critics of the bill have said they disagree with encouraging students to follow one set career path, especially one that may not reflect choices students want to make, according to the CDC. Ohio is among the states with the highest rates of birth and unmarried women, amassing 42.3% of all births. We're almost done. Last section. Meanwhile, religious groups have voiced support of the bill's emphasis on a more traditional family. I'm sure they did. When we invest in building strong children, we can save some of the expense of rebuilding broken adults. Center for Christian Virtue Policy Director David Mann said of Senate Bill 156. Encouraging education, hard work, and the importance of marriage and family helps reduce the risk of ever falling into poverty and a whole host of other negative outcomes in the first place. Senate bill had its first education committee hearing Tuesday, but is not scheduled for any further hearings at the time of publication. You know what I didn't hear in that sequence? I didn't hear college. Did you hear college?
Mm.
I heard graduate, get a full-time job, get married, and have a child. I didn't hear anything about pursuing a higher education outside of college. I mean, I didn't hear it. I mean, maybe it's there and they didn't include it in the article. But I mean, if we're going to start setting up a career path that would give people a better opportunity to not end up in poverty, I mean, would it not include a higher education, pursuing higher education? Would it not? I'm confused.
Well, maybe not college for everyone, maybe vocational, some type of
And I
vocational
agree, college isn't for everybody, but I'm just
education.
saying there was nothing in there about doing more than high school. And I'm not saying it has to be. I just thought it was interesting. But go ahead, give us what you got,
The
boo.
update that we had another article that
You
updated
do
it,
have an
and
update.
the other article basically said that this is already Tennessee. It has passed through the Tennessee legislature,
Yeah,
the
that
House
was
and
the
the
update we
Senate,
had. Hmm.
and it's on its way to the governor's desk for signing, and he absolutely has already stated that he will sign it. So once signed by the governor of Tennessee, Governor Lee, that will be the those will go into curricula as early as the 25-26 school year on this coming fall. Now, the what we have here is all of these. I love how the article conveniently. Oh, these were nonpartisan think tanks, and these have to. I'm always weary when that's the lead off because you claim to be nonpartisan, but everybody on said think tank is of the same ideology, is of the same way of thinking. Let's start there. The other thing is, um, it sounds as if they're trying to introduce morals into, or morality, I should say, into the school system, which I thought was the job of the parents. That's what parents scream about all the time. And so now this is the slippery slope because we already have in Oklahoma and Louisiana the enforcement of the Bible via the Ten Commandments in Louisiana, or they're having to be reading from the Bible every day in Oklahoma. We talked about a year or two ago about schools already in Tennessee, that whole swath of private schools and charter schools that were solely religious and were those charter schools that were utilizing public funds to be a religious institution. Um, and now when you have the implementation of this type of program, which lends itself to religious ideations, religious dogma, morality, this is happening. I say on my channel, full throated, I suspect that in the coming future, your president is going to sign an executive order that will say the official religion of the United States is Christianity. I promise you that's coming. We already had him sign one that said the official language of the United States is English. He already did that. And with how this is going, I could fully see him saying that. And then once he signs that type of executive order, we're off to the races. There'll be a race for every all of those conservative leaning governors to enact a whole religious curriculum within public schools throughout those respective states. We see this happening now. We've already started down this slippery slope. I don't know when or how we stop this. I don't see there being any stop to this. I really don't. And last thing I'll say is, unfortunately, as much as sometimes really B and I have railed against some charters and privates, I believe we are going to have to be faced with the fact that we as a people are going to have to open our own set of charter schools, since that's where we're going. Well, we can be certain that our children are educated and edified correctly. Because at this point, we cannot leave it to the public school system to educate our children. We just cannot leave it to the public school system to be responsible for educating our children. That's all I got.
I, yeah, I said what I had to say. Child, I cannot. Oh God. And I agree with you that, we may have to get to the point um where we do have to open up our own spaces. Um, you know, because clearly, and I want to say this, somebody was asking a question just as we were logging off last week, I believe, about curriculum. We were talking about Department of Education, and they were asking, does the Department of Education have anything to do with curriculum? Absolutely, it does not. States have a right to create their own curriculum, and even within the states, different districts have a right. Now, they have to answer to their state board of education, but even different districts, they can have a different curriculum, a different school calendar, all of those things. Now, there's certain things that come through the district, I mean, the state,
Like what they will set the standards that
Yeah,
each
yeah,
grade
yeah,
they'll
yeah,
set the grade level
yeah,
standards that each grade level is expected to meet.
yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, for example, in my state, in the county where I work, U.S. history is a ninth grade class. Literally, the county the county right next to me in the same state of Maryland, it's not. So as long as they take U.S. history, that's the mandate. To be eligible for a diploma in the state of Maryland, they have to, successfully pass U.S. history. It doesn't say what year they have to take it. And like El Teddy said, the standards and things like that. So that was a question. It literally popped up right as we were logging off last week, and I wanted to address it. So I hope whoever asked that question is here, or they're watching it in the playback. And first of all, shout out. Can we take a brief pause for the cause? Shout out to the people who have subscribed and who are watching. I got a message. I got a message, El Teddy, from somebody yesterday that told me that they literally went back from the beginning and watched every single Teacher Project episode
Oh
from the
wow!
first
Well, thank
one.
you.
And I was like, thank you so much. We really, really do appreciate that. For everybody that is subscribing, for everybody that hasn't gone into that has gone into our library, for everybody who's creating playlists and giving us the feedback. We really do appreciate it. I just need you guys. I'm gonna take a pause for the cause. We need 2,140 more watch time hours. So we're getting there, y'all. Slowly but surely, this little engine is chugging. So thank you guys. I just wanted to take a little brief pause for the cause. Whew, child. Okay. So where do we want to go next? Because they just keep finding these people just keep finding ways. Just oh god. Okay. Do we want to do this the one on the CDC next, or where do we
Yeah,
want to
let's
go
get that
next?
out of the way. I know we said we were going to do that last.
We did. I apologize.
We
I
had
thought. Wait a
y'all.
minute.
It's her fault. We literally went over the order, y'all, before she clicked the button. Literally right before. Go over
Okay.
the
The
colleges,
Trump,
researchers.
the restriction of life blood the colleges. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. He is right. We went over it, but for some reason my brain didn't process it today. My brain usually processes it. It didn't process it today. My apologize. Okay, my apologize. See what I'm saying? My apology. Okay. Yes, yes, true. Lovely, true, red. Yes. Okay. So this article, you guys, it is coming from the Associated Press. Shout out to the Associated Press. Okay. Trump restricts federal research funding, a lifeblood for colleges. Why is my hold on, y'all? My computer is not scrolling down. Give me a second. Come on, computer. Okay, here we go. Okay. It is March. It was dated March the 28th. After decades of partnership in the U.S. government, colleges are facing new doubts about the future of their funding. President Donald Trump's administration has been using the funding spigot to seek compliance with his agenda, cutting off money to schools, including Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, all while universities across the country are navigating cuts to grants for research institutions. The squeeze on higher education underscores how much American colleges depend on the federal government, a provider of grants and contracts that have amounted to close to a half the total revenue of some research universities, according to the Associated Press. It adds up to a crisis for universities and problem for the country as a whole, say school administrators and advocates for academic freedom. America's scientific and medical research capabilities are tightly intertwined with its universities as part of a compact that started after World War II to develop national expertise and knowledge. So again, this is something going back to World War II, child, 1945. Okay. It feels like any day, any university could step out of line in some way and then have all of their funding pulled, said Jonathan Friedman, managing director of free expression programs at Penn America. Tens of billions of dollars are at stake. The AP analysis looked at federal funding for nearly 100 colleges during currently under investigation for programs and administration has deemed as illegally pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion, or for not doing enough to combat anti-Semitism. Those schools took over $33 billion with a B in federal revenue in the 22-23 academic year. That's before taking into account federal student aid, which represents billions more in tuition and room and board payments. For most of the schools, around 10 to 13% of their revenue came from federal contracts or research funding, according to the analysis for some prestigious research universities. However, federal money represented up to half of their revenue. The AP analyzed data from the Center for Education Statistics and federal audit reports and help from researchers Jason Cohen and James Carter at the Urban Institute. Perhaps no school is more vulnerable than Johns Hopkins University, which receives $4 billion with a B in federal funds, close to 40% of its revenue, according to the analysis. Much of that went to defense research, paying for projects like missile design, submarine technology, and precision tracking systems in outer space. Billions of dollars also went to medical research for topics such as immunology and transplants, aging, neuroscience, and mental health. Johns Hopkins is facing an anti-Semitism investigation, which threatens its federal money, but already it's been feeling the effects of cuts to research grants from the National Institute of Health and other federal agencies. Earlier this month, it announced 2,200 layoffs. We face challenging times for the patients and families that rely on us for cures and treatments, and for the researchers dedicated to the pursuit of improving the health of all Americans. And the university said in a statement. The Trump, hold on. Trump has singled out Columbia University, making an example of the Ivy League school by withholding $400 million in federal funding. The administration repeatedly accused Columbia of letting anti-Semitism go unchecked at protests against Israel that began at the New York City University last spring and quickly spread to other campuses, a characterization disputed by those involved in the demonstrations. As a precondition for restoring that money, along with billions more in future grants, the Republican administration demanded unprecedented changes in university policy. Columbia's decision to bow to those demands is part of the salvage ongoing research projects at its labs and medical center that has been criticized by some faculty and free speech groups as capitulating to an intrusion on academic freedom. Lord have mercy. At the White House, hold on. At the White House, Trump expressed satisfaction with the pressure campaign on colleges. You see what we're doing with the colleges, and they're all bending and saying, "Sir, thank you very much. We appreciate it," Trump said during an event for Women's History Month. In the 22-23 academic year, Columbia got close to a fifth of its revenue from federal sources. Around $1.2 billion in audit shows that much of Columbia's federal money went to research and development, including $166 million for global AIDS programs, $99 million to studying aging, $28 million for cancer biology, and $24 million for drug abuse and addiction research. Federal law now allows the Education Department to terminate funding to colleges that violate civil rights laws, but only after taking certain steps. Title 4 of the law says the department must first take a formal finding of noncompliance, offer a hearing, notify Congress, and then wait 30 days before pulling aid. Well, we know they ain't doing that. But the Trump administration has a new strategy, moving quickly from demands to penalties and little room for negotiation and little indication of due process, legal experts say. At Penn, the administration suspended $175 million in federal funds from the Defense Department and the Department of Health and Human Services over a transgender swimmer who last competed for the school in 2022. Child. The White House said the action came out of a review of discretionary money going towards universities. It looks like most of the playbook is intimidation, more so than actual substantiated legal findings. And Michael Pallera, Director of Educational Equity Issues at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, I think all of this is designed as an attempt to intimidate all universities, not just the institutions under investigation. The cuts and the uncertainty have led some universities to accept fewer graduate students, cutting off pathways to careers. Many graduate students in science programs receive scholarships and stipends that come from federal research grants. Purdue University senior Alyssa Johnson has been planning to pursue graduate research on amphibian disease, and she was accepted into one of the 3 schools she applied. She said one of the schools appeared to have limited their acceptances to preemptively avoid funding concerns. But given her application experience, the changing landscape of research, and her shifting interests, she decided to change her course of study to something she felt would help build trust between scientists and the public. I kind of went through a little bit of a career crisis, which was definitely catalyzed by what's going on with the current administration and their attitudes towards science and science communication. There's your article. What say you?
I really we cover a lot of stories and a lot of topics. There is so much involved in this story, so much involved in this topic. Um, this has so much so many rungs within every level of our society that you can't even imagine. People who've never gone to college and university or college or university are directly affected by colleges and universities, whether or not you ever go. I'll start from the base level and take you up. On the base level, let's talk about the employment of individuals at college. Everybody working at a university is not a professor. There is the faculty, but then there's the staff. There is clerical, there is maintenance. There are people who work at the cafeteria and the food store, the post office, the police department there. There are so many there are there the number of people who are not actual faculty at a university balloons, or dwarfs, I should say, the actual faculty. So when you start cutting money, that's stopping these people from having jobs. And most times, universities have very good. When you get a job at a university, people stay in these jobs for life. They have very good benefits. They know that the likelihood of them losing their job outside of poor performance or something like that is slim and none. So they generally have job security. So there's that portion. Then we have to talk about the faculty, because now faculty is not going to be able to be paid for. And once you diminish the faculties, now enrollment has to go down. This is all rolling upon itself. Okay, so now you going from the staff to the faculty, now the student. So now your enrollment is going to go down. Either enrollment is going to go down or tuition is going to go up, or there's going to be a tuition hike. One of the two. Now, even if that is not a concern for you, what this is an attack on is the fundamental purpose of colleges and universities since World War II. I'll be honest with you. People won't want to hear this. The purpose of most colleges and universities is not to educate college students. It is for the research that comes out of those institutions. So much groundbreaking research that you have within the medical community, within every facet of humankind. You're talking things like finance, economics, political science, all of those majors that they have at these universities. People go, graduate students, professors, tenured professors, they have to do research. Their research has to then, be defended. It has to be subject to their colleagues and people within the industry testing it and criticizing it. So much research comes out of colleges. The amount of statistics that our government depends on to effectuate laws and rules and things like that. That information comes from these colleges. And now that you're saying we're cutting, just screw this. This is not even throwing out the baby with the bathwater. You're throwing out the bathwater, the baby, the tub, the faucet, the spigot, and turning off the water completely. And I don't think that people understand. I know this administration, their point is cruelty, but what I don't think they fully understand is the long-term ramifications of taking funding from institutions. Then we couple that with, if people globally have no trust in our institutions, then that diminishes our placement even globally. And if that doesn't scare this administration enough, I don't know what will, because that's all they seem to care about, wanting to be the big bully sitting on top of the hill, raining tyranny down on everybody. That's going to go away because nobody's going to take you seriously. Nobody. All of the weapons that you all have in the Defense Department, they just talked about Johns Hopkins University. Y'all go on and on talking about y'all want this lethal military, and you want to have the military prowess second to none. That does not happen without the fundamental research and information that comes out of these universities and colleges. So there's a long grocery list. Like I said, there's so many arms to this. And then the last thing I'll say before I tag my partner in, I'm so afraid with them stripping billions of dollars from Ivy League schools. What is this going to do for our HBCUs? They've already started. I did a story last week where FAMU already got tens of millions of dollars cut from their pharmacy school, and that's their premier and preeminent school college within the university.
Mm-hmm.
They produce more black pharmacists. I believe not just black pharmacists. I believe they're either number one or number two in total pharmacists that are produced from any university in America. Cut. So I'm afraid for not only all colleges and universities, but certainly what this may do um for HBCUs even more granular. Really, I'll let you go.
I mean, honestly, I don't really have a whole lot more to add. I feel like you did a really good job of summing that up. When we start talking about the bigger picture, but it goes back to something you said a few weeks ago. I mean, this is very precise. This is very calculated, is the word I'm looking for. This is not by accident. That is very calculated that they're starting with the Ivy Leagues and it's trickling down. And I agree with you. As a graduate of an HBCU, again, we had this conversation months ago. We talked about what this whole new tag word of where we started talking about the attack on DEI over a year ago. And that was one of the conversations that we had is what does that look like for our HBCUs? We even started talking about our Black organizations, even on white campuses, such as your D9, such as your Black student unions and things like that. So this is a conversation we've had, and I'm with you. That honestly is my ultimate fear, because let's be clear. I mean, I applaud Harvard. I applaud MIT for saying, you can take your 400 billion and do whatever stick it wherever. But let's be clear. Our HBCUs, they can't afford to do it, whether they want to or not. I know my school, we can't afford to say, take your federal funding and shove it. That's basically a death warrant. For the exception of the top, everybody seems to think that when they want to donate to an HBCU, they seem to think it's only 3 of them. But okay, they seem to think it's only
Howard,
Spelman,
Spelman,
Morehouse,
and
and Howard.
Morehouse.
Right? It's all they only think that 3 exist, but whatever. But outside of those 3, the majority, and even those 3, let's call a thing. They can't afford to give up that kind of money either, not in the long term. So I agree with you. Honestly, that's really where my fear trickles down for myself and for my school and many HBCUs, especially the state ones, especially the state HBCUs. But all of us will be affected if this trend continues. We know where it goes. We know the rock is rolling downhill, and we know where it goes. So I agree with you 100% on that one. I think the last one is the CDC, right?
We have one more, but we could do that maybe next week. That was the one from Louisiana about a district going to 4-day schools.
No, oh yeah, we did have that. We
4-day
actually have
school week.
time. It's only I was gonna say we've been moving pretty quickly. We can do that one first. Sorry. Y'all, I'm sorry. He's right. We talked about this offline. I don't know why my brain isn't working today, but he got me. He got me. Shut up. Wait. I know why I forgot, because I didn't send that article to you. I didn't email that article.
It's there. It's in between the last two. The picture didn't come up. Only the link is there.
Got it. I see it. You're right. I see it. Okay. So down in Louisiana is Lovely Nola here. Lovely Nola is one of my subscribers that's down in the New Orleans area. I had a chance to meet her when I was in New Orleans a couple of months ago. So this may be right up her alley. This article is coming from 107 Jams. Okay, 107 Jams. Come on, computer. Lord, my computer. These daggone pop-ups. Okay, sorry, y'all. These pop-ups killing me. So it's a move that's been gaining steam across Louisiana, with Avulays, Evangeline, Wynn, and LaSalle parishes already given the shortened week ago. Now Vernon is officially on board. In total, there are 9 parishes in Louisiana that have made the switch. The school board vote passed with 10 members saying yes, 1 voting no, and 1 absent. While most Mondays will be school free, there will be a handful of them where students will need to grab their backpacks and head in. And they give a list of the dates where the students have to come to school. Child, we don't care. And if you're wondering how parents will juggle the extra day off, you're not alone. While it may take adjusting, districts around Louisiana say the benefits are stacking up, not just in finances, but in student and teacher morale as well. As school calendars keep shifting to meet changing needs, Vernon Parish is just the latest in what may become a new normal in education, the Bayou State stated. Okay, it's a short article, but so much to say. How do you feel about this potential shortened day? Well, that potentially passed.
Yeah. I actually don't have a problem with it. I think that there are I hope it's not for the next 25-26 school year. I hope it's for maybe 26-27 to give parents an opportunity to prepare themselves. Child care, because if the work week for the general workforce is still 5 days a week, then some of those parents may have to find childcare, and so forth. So, and some parents already have to do that. There's some parents who work on the weekend and their days off are, you know, uh, um, not adjacent with their children's days off. But uh, uh um I wonder, I just wonder really be what I hope that they prepare for that, but I don't have a problem with it. I think that I think there's it's been proven that if that the work week can be shortened to 4 days and be still as effective. And I honestly think that if done the right way, planned the right way, the right um instructional practices via the right professional development is had, I think it can be successful. I don't have a problem with it at all.
So
I'm
let me
sure the
say,
teachers may want to have some of them may want less time face to face with. I won't speak for all of them, I'll let them speak.
this. I too do not have a problem with this. Surprise, surprise. During COVID, my school district, when we finally got everything set up and we were teaching from home, that is how our school schedule was set up. Monday, we had classes on Monday and Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. Wednesday was what they call asynchronous, where we just posted an assignment and the kids were to work on that independently. And I'm gonna be honest with you, myself and a lot of my colleagues have been begging for that schedule since we got back. The students, the
Mm-mm.
teachers have been begging for that day off since we got back. Um, for the exception of the inconvenience for parents who have to work, and it wouldn't be a problem so much for the students that I teach because the high school students can stay home. But obviously, for the elementary school students, like you said, that needs to be an adjustment. What I suspect is that a lot of daycare centers will start opening their doors for that Monday. And it will increase those types of businesses to give them that extra day and be able to open up their door for those students. Um,
But
I
then
don't
that's
I don't
more
know what that
money.
looks like for the parent. Yeah, yeah, they're definitely gonna ask for more money. I don't know what that looks like for the parent, but certainly as an educator, I don't have a problem with this at all. And I do think that you can still get. Let me say this.
It's always downhill when she said, let me say this. Here we
Let me
go.
say this. As long as our schools are still teaching and we still have a schedule set up under a block mod, we wasted so much time anyway. We might as well take a day off. Because let me be honest with you, and El Teddy, you shook your head, so I see you agree with me. And if there are any educators in the chat, or if you want to leave a comment, let me be honest, and y'all don't have to like what I'm about to say, but let's be clear: there's no amount of um training, there's no amount of activities, projects, curriculum. You can name all of the things that they have done to help us to teach in the block schedule, but there are so many elements that make a block schedule not effective. And to be honest with you, the only reason why we are still in a block schedule is because it's more convenient for the adults and not for the students. Our kids do not, there's nothing that we can say to them
Really
for an
be,
hour
I
and 20
really feel
minutes.
like that it ain't even all the adult. I really still feel like that's more of administration
Yeah,
than it
that's what I
is
mean. I don't
the
mean I don't
teachers.
mean
Yeah, no, no,
teachers.
no.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree with you. I agree. For the people who are not in the classroom and have to deal with it,
mm-hmm.
right? Because the reality is, I got more done when I first started teaching. We were still in that old school schedule of, we had 6 classes a day for 45 minutes, or however the math worked out. Maybe it was 7 classes. Child, I don't remember. I got more done in that 45 minutes than I probably do on an average day of 120 minutes. Now, for people who teach science, I understand the labs and all of that. I get it. But for the reality, but honestly, so with that being said, hell, we might as well take a day off, because as much time as we wasting in a mod, in those hour and 20-minute mods. I mean, I don't know about you, but
I vividly remember my senior year in high school is when they did a pilot of it was the second semester of my senior year, so we was already checked out. Okay, when they went to it, the teachers had no clue what to do. The students certainly had no clue what to do. Bathrooms became full because everybody be like, after about 45 minutes, can I go use the restroom? Okay, and you would just be in the bathroom hanging out. I know our school district also at one point, each school got to decide whether or not they wanted the traditional schedule or the block schedule, or some schools even did a hybrid where they would do it would be block schedule, but then like Wednesday or one day out of the week, or Friday, one day out of the week. Some schools said Monday, some schools said Wednesday, some schools said Friday. One day out of the week would be a regular traditional schedule, and the rest would be traditional block. So that way it wouldn't fluctuate every week. You know what I'm saying? Which is A day, B day, and all of that stuff. Um, but yeah, it's a mess. Go to the 4 days. That's it. That's all. Just go to the 4 days. Everybody.
yeah, I mean, when you factor in that a lot of our kids, because of social media, are programmed to 10-15 minutes is a push. 15 minutes is a push, because they have been programmed to TikTok or shorts, where they get everything they feel like they need in a 3-minute video. So you're asking them to do what for an hour and 20 minutes? And let's not even get into our students with ADHD, our students who are on the spectrum. Like, we're not even going to get into all those other elements that you expect them to sit in a room for an hour and 20. I don't care how great that teacher is. I don't care if the teacher is standing on her head. I don't care what all of the wonderful things that are happening. And some of these mods are longer than 120 minutes. Some of them are an hour and a half. Shoot, I mean, the way my schedule is set up, anyway, don't even get me started. Moving right along. Okay. There are days when I'm with my students for 2 hours. There's nothing we need to talk about for 2 hours. Call me what you want, say what you want. El Teddy, you taught literature. I mean, I know you taught other things too, but you taught English. What was there anything that you needed to do with your students for 2 hours?
Only time I might have been okay with it is when I had my AP kids and we were practicing for the AP test, for the essay and stuff like that, or for rhetorical analysis or something like that. That was the day that I would benefit that. That But when I taught AP, all of the schools I taught AP at had the traditional schedule. So I saw them kids every day. And so the few times we had to do that, they already knew what was gonna happen. Baby, go ahead. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
already know. So, all right,
And
we
I
ready for the
understand
last?
even for testing. But baby, just on a general basis, we don't have nothing to talk about. Not no. Moving right along. All right. So this last story, we do want to acknowledge that April is Autism Awareness Month. And so this article that we pulled, it connects to autism. So let's get into it, honey. I wasn't calling you honey. I was just saying honey. Let's get into it. Um. Anyway, anybody who knows me knows that right now I have a favorite student who is autistic. I can't say his government name, but El Teddy knows because I talk about him all the time. And I have literally had him every year for the last 4 years. And he is getting ready to graduate. And I am happy but sad at the same time because I love him so much. And he brings me so much joy. He is a communist and he has been trying to convert me to communism for the last 4 years. And we have had some great debates. We have had some great debates over the years as it relates to his political ideology. It is so interesting. But anyway, let's get into this. I'll put the link in the chat for those of you who want to read through it. Hey, Cruiser. Hey, everybody coming in. Quake, Course, K-Love, Ravine. I saw Ravine in here. Hey, everybody. If I missed your name, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have started calling names, chat, because I'm not going to miss people. All right, this article is coming from the Associated Press. It's coming out of, it's dated April the 15th, coming out of Atlanta. An estimated 1 in 31 U.S. children have autism, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Tuesday, marking another jump in a long string of increase. The CDC's data was from 14 states and Puerto Rico in 2022. The previous estimate from 2020 was 1 in 36. Boys continue to be diagnosed more than girls, and the highest rates are among children who are Asian Pacific Islander, American Indian, Alaskan Native, and Black. To estimate how common autism is, the CDC checked health and school records for 8-year-olds because most cases are diagnosed by that age. Other researchers have their own estimates, but experts say the CDC's estimate is the most rigorous and the gold standard. Here's what you need to know about the new numbers, as well as Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s plan to do a massive testing and research effort around autism. What is autism? Autism is a developmental disability caused by differences in the brain. There are many possible symptoms, many of which overlap with other diagnoses. They can include delays in language and learning, social and emotional withdrawal, and an unusual need for routine. For decades, the diagnosis is rare, given only to kids with severe problems communicating or socializing with those with unusual repetitive behaviors. As late as the early 1990s, only 1 in 10,000 children were diagnosed with autism. Around that time, the term became a shorthand for a group of milder related conditions known as autism spectrum disorders. And the number of kids labeled as having some form of autism began to balloon. In the first decade of the century, the estimate rose to 1 in 150, and in 2018, it was 1 in 44. 2020, it was up to 1 in 36. Why are the numbers rising? Health officials largely attribute growing numbers in autism to better recognition of cases through wide screening and better diagnosis. There are no blood or biologic tests for autism. It's diagnosed by making judgments about a child's behavior, and there's been an explosion in autism-related treatment and services for children. Roughly 2 decades ago, studies by the CDC and others ruled out childhood vaccines as a cause for, I'm going to say that one more time. Roughly 2 decades ago, studies by the CDC and others ruled out childhood vaccines as a cause for autism. Since then, a lot of research has looked at a variety of other possible explanations, including genetics, the age of the father, the weight of the mother, and whether she had diabetes and exposure to certain chemicals. Some researchers have theorized that it may be a series of things, perhaps a biological predisposition set off by some sort of toxic exposure. Kennedy and anti-vaccine advocates have remained fixated. Sorry, y'all. It's a pop-up. Have remained fixated on childhood vaccines, pointing at a preservative called thimerosal that is no longer in most childhood vaccines, and theorizing that autism may be the cumulative effect of multiple vaccinations. A number of studies, including some with CDC authors, have not found such links. Last week, Kennedy said HHS was launching a massive testing and research effort that's going to involve hundreds of scientists from around the world and identify what causes autism in less than 6 months. also promised he'll be able to eliminate those exposures. Child. All the while y'all are cutting funding to colleges to schools and colleges and researchers that do this type of stuff. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Kennedy and President Trump both referred to the 1 in 31 estimates that CDC released Tuesday during last week's White House meeting. And Kennedy also repeated the statistics at a meeting with the FDA officials on Friday. Kennedy's statement followed reports that he had hired David Geer, a man who has repeatedly claimed a link between vaccines and autism, to lead the autism research effort. Child. The hiring of Geer, whom Maryland found was practicing medicine on a child without a doctor's license, was first reported by the Washington Post. I tell you, there's just no rules. That's it. That's the end of the article. How we ended it.
First of all, I'm not going to give any airspace time or credence to Robert F. Kennedy and your president at all. I'm not doing that.
We're not doing that. Don't put them on me. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
I will say that, like this article said, they have gotten better at diagnosing autism. That's why the research has gotten better. The tests and the diagnostic tests that they use have gotten better. Now, do I believe that there is a certain percentage of individuals that may fall into it that should not? Sure. Just like that, just like with gifted, we have parents whose children are not gifted, and what they'll do is they, instead of using the school psychologist, they'll go and get their own personally selected psychologist that might be a family friend that will do their own IQ test and then submit that as paperwork or as the rationale or the prerequisite for that child being deemed gifted. In a similar manner, like the article said, there's a lot of money in autism, and for the schools and for parents, and there are some parents that, because let's be clear, what this country does to people on the lower rung of the economic food chain, are looking for any way they can to get more money to take care of their families. And I'm not going to say that does not happen, but I'm not going to give any credence to those other people. I just think but what those other people will do is they will use these updated numbers as their rationale and reason why they will have an attack on all things real science. That's what this is, an attack on science. That's all I have.
Again, I just can't give energy to the ignorance that is coming out of the White House. There's so many things in that article on so many different levels of ignorance that I don't have the energy for it. But what I will say is I do agree with what you said, that I think that the numbers go up or have gone up because we just have a better way of diagnosing these things with our babies. And I do applaud that there are so many programs out now to help these students and these parents, let's say these children and these parents. As far as this whole, I'm going to find a cure in the next 6 months, again, I just can't give that any energy because we all know it's ridiculous. I mean, we just know it's ridiculous. First of all, the fact that on one hand you are literally gutting, Department of Health and Human Services, but at the same time you are totally, and when I say you, I mean as an administration, you are totally destroying your relationship with these other countries, but you're going to team up with these scientists in other countries to come up with a cure for autism. Please, like, you are a walking contradiction. So again, I can't give any of that any energy because we just know it's bull hockey. It's just not valid. And then, we have a whole measles outbreak in this country because people have listened to people like Robert F. Kennedy, that's an anti-vaxxer, and now we're dealing with a disease that was eradicated Why was it eradicated, El Teddy? Because they found a fucking vaccine. I mean, that's what vaccines do. I
That's why
remember,
I ain't pay attention to none of those people
yeah,
during
I mean,
COVID that was like, oh, I ain't getting no vaccine because they try to, baby, do what you got to do and die. I have nothing to do with it. We'll be at your
right,
funeral. Baby,
right.
I
Do
will
your
drink
thing.
some sex sodas and eat some Publix chicken at your wake and your repast. If you want to say you don't want to, go ahead, go with God. Literally, go with
Go
God.
with God, honey. Go with
I
God.
have nothing for you.
Let me tell you something. I was telling my I'm gonna end it here. I was talking to my students, and we were talking about World War II, and of course we were talking about the Great Depression, yada yada yada. And we were talking about John Robert, daggone it, not Robert or John. We were talking about Franklin Roosevelt. And I was saying, well, he had polio. And of course my students were like, what's polio? And I said, here's a perfect example of why vaccines are important. And then we had a whole conversation about what polio was and why it's no longer a thing. Although they're trying to make it a thing again, but that's another conversation for another day. I do want to just give a special. So Ravine says, I'm curious as to why he is a communist. You know what? I will have him tell you because he can explain it way better than I can. But he voted in November. He is 18 and he voted his first November and he voted for the communist candidate. I mean, and he told me who it was. He explained to me what their platform was. And my thing is, you were an informed voter. So I can't even be mad at you that you voted for the communist choice, because you could tell me who it was and you could tell me why you were voting for them and you could tell me what their platform was. You know what? I've done my job. You know what I'm saying? But he is hilarious. Exactly, Cruiser. They first have to know the cause. So shout out to all the parents of babies that have autism on all of the different parts of
Absolutely.
the spectrum. Um, we know that's an extra. We know that's an extra blessing that you have. Um, and so this is Autism Awareness Month. So you guys go out and educate yourselves on autism. And what you don't know, if you didn't know, all of those wonderful things. And with that being said, I'm gonna let the doc have the final word. What you got, Doc?
Happy Autism Awareness Month. And listen, y'all, we out here doing what we do. Really be we may not be here next week, or maybe really be may have a special guest. I will not be here next week. I'll be out of
Yeah, I
town,
know.
but really
Yeah, I
be,
know what you got going on next week.
yeah, child, I'll be there tomorrow. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You are. Yeah, that's
that's
right.
why I told you I have a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
but that's all I have. Get ready to go live in like 2 minutes or so whenever we get off of here.
All right. Well, we are out. You guys have a great evening. Peace. After El Teddy, here's the lineup for tonight. After El Teddy goes live, um, you guys know I do the Whether You Like It or Not Beverly Hills edition at 7:00, and after that, I will be going live so we could break down Nene's interview with Latasha Scott and Don Juan, giving his point of view on what happened down to the Kenya Moore hair care salon. Okay, so y'all gotta schedule y'all gotta schedule until about 9:30 tonight. Okay, all right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.